Coming up on this episode of One-on-One Sports.
Famous Jameis finds himself in a bit of hot water in Tallahassee, and surprise, surprise, Ray Lewis is fired up about something.
Plus, the Boo Birds are out in Cincy, and we take a look at a thrilling season of NASCAR.
All that and so much more, and it all starts right now.
Hello and welcome to this edition of One-on-One Sports. I'm Jake Sotir.
And I'm Ryan Balick. Jack Taylor still hasn't passed me the ball, and here are your starting five.
Jameis Winston is one of the most exciting football players we've seen at the college level in quite some time, and he's been in the news for his on-field performance a lot this season. But now he's in the news for a different reason, as reports have surfaced linking Winston to a sexual assault that occurred in December 2012. Winston's attorney has said the issue was resolved in February and maintains Winston's innocence, as no charges have been filed on him as of yet. If Winston is in fact innocent, Ryan, is this honestly what sports media has come to, that we're dragging these guys down like this?
I mean, unfortunately, this is what the media is. It's just a spur-of-the-moment news source that pretty much blows up any bad or good piece of information about a big-time player, especially about a guy like Jameis Winston, who's about to win the Heisman. Jameis Winston has had this huge breakout year, and this is just what happens to these people, just like what happened to Johnny Manziel.
And honestly, I think sometimes it comes from the fans fabricating stories about these guys when they see them getting so famous. Exactly, and it really is a shame. If this story turns out to be true, then what we've said doesn't matter because it's a horrible, horrible story. But if it turns out to be false, it really is a shame what the media does to these guys.
And we're probably going to keep on hearing about the story until Jameis Winston either wins or doesn't win the Heisman Trophy.
No doubt.
San Francisco linebacker Ahmad Brooks was flagged for unnecessary roughness on a hit to Drew Brees' neck on Sunday that cost the 49ers the game. The next night on Monday Night Countdown, Ray Lewis said the call was the biggest embarrassment since the Tuck rule and that he personally pay half of any fine the NFL handed down to Brooks because of how absurd it was. Jake, do you agree with Ray? And are these new penalties an embarrassment to the NFL?
I'm sorry, I don't agree with Ray on this one. Sometimes I do, and sometimes he's right. But this time, I think it was definitely a clear-cut penalty. Drew Brees, like it or not, he's a little bit shorter than a lot of quarterbacks.
That's
you
true.
Can't hit him around the neck, and that's what Ahmad Brooks did. Like it or not, but that's a penalty.
I think Ray's just upset because first you couldn't hit to the head, then you couldn't hit real down low, and now it's to the neck. And there's just no consistency amongst these calls. And we saw it again last night with the Panthers and Patriots. There's just no consistency amongst anything, and that's what's embarrassing to the NFL.
And I do agree that defensive players have a hard time because there are so many restrictions on what they can and can't do, especially when it comes to the quarterback.
Process.
It definitely is, and they're going to have to adjust if they want to be successful in the league. At times this season, the Cincinnati Bengals have looked like world beaters. The past few weeks, they've looked like they couldn't beat anyone in the world. Luckily for them, they turned things around this weekend with a blowout win over division rival Cleveland. Despite the win, Cincy battled through another slow start, and the Bengal faithful let them hear it, raining boos down on the field after an Andy Dalton pass went the other way for 6. Bengals defensive end Michael Johnson criticized the fans for booing and said they should just, quote, just leave if that's the way they feel. Ryan, whose side are you on, Johnson or the fans?
I'm absolutely on the fans' side. I mean, the fans pay a ridiculous amount of money to watch these guys who get paid a ridiculous amount of money to be entertained. And when the people you're watching to go that are supposed to be entertaining you are losing 13-0 to the team you declared as the worst franchise to be a fan of in professional sports, then there's a reason to boo. And I think fans have every right to be able to boo.
I could not agree with you more, especially with how well the Bengals have played thus far this season.
Undefeated at home.
The expectation is there that they're going to play that way every week, and when they don't and Andy Dalton becomes the quarterback that he was maybe last year or a couple years ago, they have every right to be mad that they're not playing up to their potential.
Absolutely.
And sometimes booing from the fans can make a team better, and you saw that in that game. It made them better.
I mean, the Bengals went and scored 31 points in the second quarter unanswered and just completely took advantage of that game.
So for Michael Johnson and all NFL players, maybe they should direct their anger elsewhere. Use it constructively and
help your own self.
Exactly.
Help your own cause.
Exactly.
Remember Jack Taylor, the Division III player from Grinnell College that set the all-time scoring record in a game with 138 points last season? Well, Taylor is back in the news because through 2 games this year, he is averaging 90 points a game. That's right, 90. Last game, Taylor took 70 shots from the field, including 48 three-pointers in just 29 minutes of playing time. Jake, is this strategy just disgrace the sport of basketball?
I think it is. I really do, and I firmly believe that. I really am not a fan of the way this coach goes about his business, bringing in teams that aren't in the NCAA. They're not in the NAIA, which is a step below the NCAA.
Not even in Division III.
They're not. They're in the NCCAA a lot of the times. He brings them in and absolutely destroys them. And if you look at the box score from these games, Taylor has 70-plus shots. Everybody else on his team has 10 or less.
Ridiculous.
It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't work.
And who would want to play on a team like that where you just always have to pass the ball to one guy and he shoots it 5 seconds in the shot clock? It just takes the complete fun out of the sport of basketball. It's supposed to be an entertaining sport. It's a sport you're supposed to have fun. And the fact that Jack Taylor comes out and says that he wouldn't be anywhere without his teammates just really just drives me crazy.
It just bugs me that the coach does all this stuff to make headlines, and that's the only reason why he does it. To me, it is definitely a disgrace. Michael Jordan knows what it means to be the greatest. He also has a pretty good idea of who he'd want on his pickup basketball team if he could build one from scratch. Jordan named Scottie Pippen, James Worthy, Magic Johnson, and Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon as the 4 players he'd suit up with if given the chance. Here comes the fun part. We wanted to figure out if there are any 5 players on the planet that would be able to take these 5 guys in a pickup game. So Ryan, what 5 guys would you take against this team?
Well, MJ's got a lot of size on this team, so I was looking at matchups specifically. So I have some size and I got some defense in there. So I'm starting off with my point guard. I got LeBron James, so he's obviously a floor general and he can shoot. LeBron can do everything. And I got Larry Bird. I'm going to play the shooting guard. Obviously, you wouldn't think that because Larry Bird is generally a small forward, but you just let LeBron drive and kick it out to Larry Bird, the best shooter of all time. Yeah, game over. Kevin Durant. Surprisingly, I like Kevin Durant a lot. I think he's amazing. His entire career has been overshadowed by LeBron. Kevin Durant's a superstar. Yeah. I got Tim Duncan as my power forward. Nobody better than Tim Duncan, especially defensively. And then Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, arguably the most underrated NBA player of all time, as my center.
Well, one similarity on my team, and that would be LeBron James, obviously. For me, I'm disregarding all matchups. I'm throwing AI in there because AI in his prime is one of the best point guards to ever do it.
Who's going to guard AI?
I don't know. Maybe Jordan.
All right.
I don't know. Going on to the 2, gotta put Kobe in there somewhere, man. Kobe and Jordan, that is a dream matchup.
It's a matchup thing.
If I've ever seen one. And LeBron obviously at the 3. I like Barkley at the 4, one of the best rebounding power forwards of all time. And then I got Shaq at the 5, man. You gotta throw Shaq into a pickup game if you got the chance, especially for us. Absolutely.
Completely agree. Don't go anywhere because coming up next, we will hear from our NFC experts and hear their predictions for which team will win each division and get those 2 wildcard spots. You're watching 101 Sports on Elon Student Television.